Hey, this is JC and welcome to Small Brick City, where we want to help you realize your dream of building a custom Lego city regardless of the space you have. In this video, I'll be discussing tips and tricks on how to build a Lego expert modular building. What is an expert modular building? It is basically a more advanced design of a building for sophisticated Lego builders. At the time that this video is being filmed, Lego has officially released 12 expert modular buildings. There are some unofficial modular buildings which are just as sophisticated, such as the Ninjago City and Ninjago Docks. In this video, I'll be discussing inset modular buildings, which are buildings that are meant to be placed in between other buildings. I will do a separate video on corner modular buildings. Let's start off by going through the basic characteristics of an expert modular building using these two sets as examples. This is the downtown diner and this is the Parisian restaurant. All modular buildings are built on a standard 32 by 32 stud base plate, just like this one. Each level of the modular can be separated because each level is held together by tiles and plates, and I'll show you that in just a bit. But essentially, each floor can be removed, including the roof, so that you can access the interior of the builds. Each modular building has a front sidewalk as well as a back alley or some space behind. There's a main front door for each modular building as well as a back door. There will be ways to access the upper floors, such as using stairs, and sometimes these are built on the outside of the building or on the inside of the building. Generally, Lego always includes lots of windows in the front facade of the building as well as the back. And I think there are several reasons for this. One is so that you can see the interior of the building. Two, it just makes the build more interesting. And three, that is reflective of a real building. The sets you see in front of me are professionally designed, so they're really intricate. There's lots of visual texture, different parts of the build, and that is distinguished between different colors and build techniques and just the look of the builds itself. So depending when the expert modular building was released, different builds will have different concepts built into the interiors of each floor. In recent years, there'll be one function for each floor, but overall, there's always one overriding concept, which is generally on the ground floor. If you intend to build your own custom modular building, you will want to take your cue from the official Lego sets. Even if you don't buy them, do check out videos of speed builds as well as reviews of the sets so you can see the different building techniques involved. You can also download the instructions from lego.com so that you can see the different parts, and this will give you inspiration and ideas on how you can construct your own expert modular building. But here's my advice for people who are new to building and want to build their own custom full-scale modular building. My advice is not to. Instead, I suggest you start off with a half modular building just like these. And here we have two half modular buildings, and this is actually an official set from Lego. This is the pet shop, and it's the only time they provided two half modular buildings in an expert modular set, and I actually hope they do it again soon. So each of these sets are built on a 16 by 32 stud base plate, so that's half a standard plate. Looks just like that. But the characteristics are the same as the full modular building. These are modular in nature, which means that each level can be separated. They're held together by jumper plates and tiles. There's a front door and a back door for each of the builds. Let me just show you the back of this one over here. There's also a front sidewalk and a back area. In this case, both sides' back areas are unfinished. The front and back of each building has windows, as you can see. There's even a door to a balcony over here. I believe I expanded the balcony for this, but the original build did have a back door. So these are the basic characteristics of a modular building. And in a 16 by 32 stud base plate modular building, you can build basically essentially the same thing. And if this is your first build, the reason I recommend a half build is you can hone your techniques and get a modular building out faster if you just work with half of build. It doesn't mean there's any less detail. In fact, you probably can fit in more detail in a half build and it looks better than a full build. Working with a half build also means you're going to use less bricks, so this means you can build it faster and it is less expensive. Let me show you another half modular building that I did. And this is actually a remark of a Creator 3-in-1 set, which is a townhouse, but I built it to become a full 16 by 32 stud modular building. And it's got all the characteristics of an expert modular building. And honestly, I really have a good time building these smaller modulars. And I find that the 16 by 32 stud footprint is almost the perfect size. It's got great proportion, and you can fit in a lot of detail on the interior as well, and you can create really nice exteriors. If you really want to build one of these modular buildings and you're going with a half modular route, you can start off by looking for an existing set. For example, currently you can find the Avengers Sanctum Sanctorum set on the market still, and it actually comprises of Pete's apartment and Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum. What I did was just to take half of the build, in this case Pete's apartment, and I expanded it so that it became a full modular building. Currently, this is on a 16 by 16 stud base plate, but that is by choice. If you're to compare, the actual building is actually the exact same size of, let's say, the pet shop. Maybe, okay, it's slightly smaller by 2 studs or so, but it's about the same size. But if you want to try building a modular, if this is your first time and you have nowhere to start off by taking an existing set, and you're going to get half of the facade, and what you're going to do is you're going to replicate it on the other side. Now, I originally had dark tan masonry bricks over here, but I wanted to use them for something else, so I just switched out for medium orange. But essentially what I did was replicate the front, and I did do some changes such as move the fire escape to the back. And I kept the concept of Pepe's Pizza for the ground floor. This was originally Pete's apartment, Peter Parker's apartment, but I've made it into Pepe's office as well as his apartment. But this is a good start. So if you are getting to expert modular buildings, you want to build your own modular but don't know where to start off with a simple build like this. You can see in terms of detail, this of course is much simpler than the pet shop, because the pet shop is an expert modular build. This is a smaller set, so the details aren't as fine. There's not so much intricacy in terms of signage and just the details such as this curved front townhouse-like window and the steps that lead up. But this will actually give you good practice and a good starting base on how to put together the building. In the Sanctum Sanctorum, it is a dollhouse style build, but I did change it to a modular style build so I can actually separate the levels. And these are the tiles and the jumper plates that I mentioned. So for the jumper plates, there are 2 options you can go for. You can use a 1x4 jumper plate with 2 studs, it looks like that, or you could just use a single stud. Both will work. This is maybe a bit easier to use, but sometimes if you have too many of these 1x4 double studs, you'd find that they stick to the level when you raise them up. So that's a good way to start. Here are some tips to build a modular building, and for the sake of this video, we'll assume that you're working with a half modular building, 16 by 32 studs. So you start off with the base plate. And if you do want to build a full modular, everything I discuss here will apply. It's really the concept we're talking about. And remember, we're talking about inset buildings, not corner builds. So we start off with the base plate, and the first thing is to figure out the footprint of your building in relation to the base plate. Remember, I mentioned that one of the characteristics of a modular is to have a front side walk and a back area. The front side walk generally is between 6 to 8 studs deep. Let's work with 6 studs for this particular build. And for the back, let's work with 8. So if I take the example of the pet store, this is actually 8 studs for the back in terms of the space. That front is also actually 8 studs. That means the footprint of the building is only 16 by 16. So even though the whole base plate is 32 studs, the building itself is only 16 studs deep. So you don't really have to fill the entire building on the base plate. Although I did close to that with this particular build. This is my townhouse build. I had 6 studs. Well, it's actually 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 studs here, and 5 studs here. So this is a bit odd, and then there's 3 studs here. I should also take the opportunity to mention this. When working with spaces, as far as you can, try to work with even numbers and not odd numbers. I'm not sure why I had an odd number here, but it's much easier to work with even numbers just because of the Lego math and the general parts that you have, which generally have even studs. So in hindsight, if I were to rebuild this, I'd probably do 6 studs here and maybe 6 studs here, and this entire build will be smaller. So for this particular build, let's assume it's going to be 6 studs in front and 8 studs behind. So what you do is you take 1x6 plates and a 1x8 plate and just put them on just like that, and this will guide you to mark out the rest of the build. And for that you need a bunch of 1x something long plates, and I'll use these dark gray plates. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay out the entire footprint of my building. And I'm not worried at this point about where the door is and stuff like that. You just want to lay it out, and this will help you visualize it. And if you don't have plates and tiles and bricks, of course you can use a digital designer to do it. I do recommend you check out my playlist on building a MOC from beginning to end, and that's where I really go into detail of how I build a MOC. In this case, I'm not building the full building here, I'm just giving you starting tips so that you can actually get started. So let's put this here, and I need another 1x4 plate here. And there we have it. That is the front, that is the back. You can now remove it just like that. So just like that, we have got some kind of visual idea of where our building is, and it's going to be built up. I would assume at this point you should have some kind of idea of what design you want to have in terms of the color of the bricks you're using and maybe the general look of the build. You want to reference Google for images of real buildings that you might model after, or it could be a Lego MOC that you've seen on an existing set that you want to model and build your own build out of it. And I would say focus floor by floor. Don't worry about the 3rd floor when you haven't even built the 1st floor. And because this is Lego, it's a very simple matter for you to change the design as you go along. So just start off with the 1st floor, get the footprint out, and the next step is to get 2 of these door frames. Remember, another characteristic is to have a front door and a back door, and what you want to do is to plan where you want your door. You can have it anywhere you want depending on your design. Again, you want to work with even numbers as much as you can, so try to put it at an even space from the edge. This just makes your life a bit easier. And one more tip, when you're doing doors, you do not want to put it all the way to the end, because remember, this is where your side wall is going to be and you don't want the door right there. So you need to be at least 1 stud out, but I would recommend, especially for modular building this size, you want it even numbered and at least 2 studs like that. And this allows you then to build up your bricks with the corner here. And this can be on the opposite side, for example. And that's it. And as a tip, you saw just now when I placed that on the plate, it was here, it brought up the plate. So a basic guide in building Lego is you always want to build over the overlap. So if I do this, that's great, because now it's overlapping 2 plates, and that just makes it a more secure build. So let's assume you figure out where you want your doors and you lay that out as well. The next thing you have to figure out is the access to the upper floors, and therefore you need a set of steps. So here we have a standard set of steps or stairs from Lego, and you want to figure out a logical position where to put the stairs so that minifigs can go up to the 2nd floor. Obviously, you do not want to put it directly in front of a door, because then there's no way to access somewhere else, unless of course you have 2 doors for the front, and 1 door goes to the ground floor and one door goes to the steps. But if not, let's say you're just building a regular building, you'd want this obviously in a place where it doesn't block any access point or door, so it might make sense to put the stairs somewhere here. Now you notice that the stairs are actually shorter than the door, and we'll get to that in just a while, because what you do need to figure out is the height of the first floor that you want to build. Typically, that's where the door frame comes in handy as well. Typically, the height of one floor is between 2 to 4 studs or 4 bricks taller than the door frame. So let's just assume, for the sake of this particular discussion, it is 1 brick high. And for purposes of illustration, we will use this brick over here, and this will be the height of the first floor. But actually, there will be more height to this, because generally when you do a build, you will have a layer of brick, and then you have a layer of plate, and that's to hold the plates or hold the bricks in place. And after you put the plates on the bricks, you have your tiles, and that's to create that modular aspect. And let me just show you this with this build. Over here, you can see we have the bricks. With the brick, there's a plate, and above the plate there is a tile. So this is the general way it's built, and it's almost the case for every modular building. So you'd always have at the very top of each level brick, plate, and tile. So if I have 1 brick above the door as the height, it really is 1 brick plus the plate and the tile, and this would be the final height of your first floor. So here is the issue. If you have a staircase piece like that, and just for comparison, if I were to line it up, you can see it is much lower than the height, because ideally what you need is for the stairs to go all the way here so that minifigs can access the second floor. So here's what you need to do. You need to extend the height of the stairs, and to do that, it's actually pretty simple. All you need is a few parts. A 2x2 brick is useful, and you can add it in just like that. And then you take a 1x4 plate and you can add it on like that. Now notice that there's actually a closer gap between these two. So again, it depends on the height you need. So you want to adjust. Now in this case, I can adjust because I can make it taller, and I do want that equal spacing. So it's a simple matter to take this out and take a 1x2 plate, add that at the bottom, and put this piece on. And now we've got a more balanced and symmetrical height. And now I can put it here and I can compare once again. And you can see I've successfully raised it to an adequate height. Now, if I want to raise it to the exact same height, there are 2 ways I can do that. I can put a tile on here, or I can put a 2x2 plate under here. In any case, I have raised it to the right height, and let's assume I'm going to put it maybe closer to the wall over here. And I need space, so I'm going to do that. So this will be the position of my stairs that I'm figuring out, because I'm going to put a plate when I build up the wall over here. And now I've worked out at least the basic layout for the modular, and this is really the start that you want to do. So you want to create the footprint, know where the access points are for the front and back doors, and then you want your stairs, which is the access to the second floor. With this in mind, you can now start building the rest of your building, and I'm not going to do that here because it really depends on your design. And as mentioned, you can check out my playlist where I've built other MOCs and modulars from start to finish, and you can see how I actually went through that entire process. After you've built up the structure of your first floor, you should have something like this, and basically you have all the walls, and you would have the top covered with tiles and some jumper plates so that you can put on the next floor. Notice how my stairs come here. They may end here, but that's because they're going to join the next floor, and the next floor is really the base of the second floor, and that's this over here. What you need to do is to create a base, and the base of the second floor uses multiple plates like that, held together by smaller plates. Again, check out my playlist to see how to do this. And what you need to do is create an opening so that when you put the floor on top, just like that, it matches up with your stairs. So in this case, there's space for the minifix to climb up to get directly to the second floor. And you would then create the base of this floor so that fits the exact footprint of your first floor. And then you build up the stairs or build up the walls once again. And you follow the same process. So you do the footprint as you did with the first floor. Instead of doorways access, you want to put in windows. And you can see there are windows here for the front and the back. Things like this, which is the fire escape, can be added on later, so don't worry about it just yet. Just come up with the basic structure first. And remember, what's the third thing you have to do? Think of access to the next floor. For the case of this particular build, I did not have another flight of proper stairs, but instead I have a ladder here, which is attached to a modified plate with clip on the floor. And this leads to the next floor, which has a hole to get to the third and final floor. So that's what you need to do for the second floor. It is basically the same process as the first floor. The only difference is you're not working on a base plate, but you're working off the footprint of the first floor. And of course, you're putting together plates so that you can work around the access from the stairs. Now we come to the final floor, which is exactly the same as the second floor. And the only thing that you want to do is to figure out whether you want to have roof access. So here's my third floor. I don't have any access to the roof, even though there is a trapdoor here, and that's because there's a trapdoor of the original set. But I can choose to build this solid. And what you need to do is to create a roof and create something with design. There is a water tank above here, but notice all this design. If you want to check out roof designs, check out the link in the card above or in the description. I give you different roof designs that can use for a modular as well. And once again, this roof is also built the same way as the floor from the preceding floors, and it will also attach by the jumper plates and resting on the tiles for the preceding floor. So really, building the modular is going step by step. It can be quite daunting if you think of it in terms of the whole build. But if you think of it step by step and you just go through the same process for each floor, it really makes it much easier. In the way I build my modulars, I always build the structure first, and then I worry about the interior detail. For video tutorials on the interior detail, do check out this playlist where I show you how to detail a ground floor, which is a kitchen and a living area, and then another video for the second floor, which is the bedroom and the bathroom, and finally a third video where I detail the outside, which includes a garden. So those videos will give you a really good resource on detailing your modulars. I hope you enjoyed this video and it gave you some insight on how to get started with your first modular building. If you've got any questions or feedback, please leave them in the comments below. In a subsequent video, I'll share how to design a corner modular building, as well as share more sophisticated designs and ideas for modular buildings. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.